I'm Peter Oborne, and I'm here to talk about Julian Assange. And from the point of view of, I'm a journalist, and I'm going to say that really the things he's being charged with are crimes against journalism, and for him to be extradited to the United States, where he'd spend the rest of his life in some cell, is not something which should happen. And I'm very cross with my colleagues and newspapers and the broadcasting press that this isn't a massive story, because it is for journalism. It means that if you're a journalist, you're going to not be able to do your job if this precedent takes place. So that's what I'm going to be saying tonight, and I'm going to be making comparisons with dissidents in other countries like Navalny and others. And we give a great deal of attention, quite rightly, to them.
I feel similar shame, having worked for BBC ITV. Why do you think journalists are not covering this?
I don't like to speculate about motive. I've offered to write about Assange to a lot of papers, none of which have taken them from me. But don't ask me. You have to ask the papers concerned why they haven't taken them.
Money controls the narrative?
Again, this is beyond me. This is too deep for me. All I know is that they...
I agree. It's very difficult to say, isn't it?
Well...
There are good journalists out there.
It really strikes me that the story of Julian Assange is one which goes right to the heart of the business we do. Look, British journalists, I mean, the three great newspaper organisations in this country, the three biggest, between them, they ran Boris Johnson into Downing Street. They managed his campaign effectively. They collaborated with his campaign. That was one of their achievements. They put Boris Johnson in Downing Street. They're always telling us that they stand up for freedom and about exposing corruption and all that sort of stuff. But I see that they're rather negligent, if you ask me, about exposing the stuff going on in Downing Street right at this moment, and they're totally silent, as far as I can see, about the case of Julian Assange, which ought to be covered by every paper every day in full and fairly. That's all I'm asking.
Are there any bad, toxic journalists out there?
Well,
on the record. No, not here. On the record.
Look, I don't know about individuals, but I'm very cross with most of my colleagues for ignoring this subject or alternatively falling for fake narratives about which pushed out by the establishment to diminish and destroy Assange. And those I can think of a few who, but I'm not going to name them to you now.
Go on, name them.
No, I'm not going to. But there are a number of journalists who I think have written disgracefully about Assange. I mean, the rape narrative, which is much more, never charged at all, but was used to discredit and destroy him, and people who bought into that without properly researching it.
So I need to ask you, where do you get your news if you've lost faith in your former colleagues? Where do you go for your information?
Well, because I was a practicing journalist in the MSM for about 30 years, I know how to read the papers. that answers your question.
Are there journalists you trust and you really like?
Golly, you are... of course, there's lots of journalists. I really love them, yeah.
And they're free within their publications and platforms?
I mean, I give you examples. I think that Matthew Paris is absolutely glorious on the Times. Ian Birrell, I greatly admire. Tom Utley, the Friday columnist on the Daily Mail, I think is as fine a columnist as there is. He writes beautifully.
Well, let's celebrate good journalism tonight.
Thank you yes, let's do that. Yes, thank you.
Lovely, thank you so much.
Yeah.